Hello guys, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Hopefully everybody had a great day. So amazing day, guys. Amazing day today. Lily was a top play, Reddit, bunch of other plays. This is why the earnings season is the best season to make money in the market with the repeatable setups and with defined risk. Lose small, win big. So huge day today. So a lot to recap. Today. We'll recap a lot of our earning plays we did. We'll recap day to day three setups. Personally, didn't have to do too much. Between Reddit and Lily was the day was done, but trading community really did well on a lot of our setups. Before we start, just a quick introduction to anybody who's new to the community, new to my new follower, or you're new to my YouTube. All these trade recaps and all these teachings are from anything we trade in our community, any idea that I share on Twitter. For example, I shared on Lily to idea on Twitter today, or anything I discussed with you guys in previous YouTube videos. We trade with a repeatable system, and we trade with repeatable setups. I have been sharing these repeatable trading setups for a long time and been teaching those if you have been watching my videos. So we do not trade without a setup, without a system. Every setup we do is repeatable. Our system is repeatable, and that's what we do every day. Every morning, my team, we create a game plan for the day for our community, and you see the game plan. This was our earning plays. We have market plays. We talk about Apple, for example. Apple was a market play that had a news, and you see we have a support and resistance levels. The header is missing here, support and resistance level, and then we have game plan. This is the game plan. Initial buys, game plan. You can learn how to play this if you watch my previous videos, or you can watch my webinar in my community. But we try to follow this, and we change our bias based upon what our system tells us at the open. So we trade them. In addition to that, we also had something called day to day three setups, which is my repeatable strategy. It's based upon the day to day three. Anything that has news yesterday or day before yesterday, based upon that we trade them using our system. Same support, resistance, pivots. I covered that in detail in our day to day three webinar. All these strategies are repeatable setups that you can use to trade consistently in the market. In addition to that, we also provide a lot of our these levels on the market, SPY, QQQ, Apple, Microsoft, AMD, bunch of other names, so that you can use those levels and the cloud system to trade consistently, or if there's job, maybe do nothing, right? And I'm on voice, and the market opens, provide the game plan. I'm on the voice, guiding everybody through the trades. I'm usually on the voice first few hours of the market open, and if the market is hard, there's a lot going on, I stay on the voice all day. I do post my lot of my comments and my anything that I'm trading in the in the alert section of our community. Hundreds of traders are trading on our trade floor, sharing ideas all day. We have bunch of option scanners, news bots, bunch of other free tools that we use in our community to trade. So anyways, that being said, we'll go through all the trades we did in the community and what was my guidance, or if we'll talk about some call outs from the trading floor today as well. So we will discuss that and see how everything panned out. So fully follow, and you can use these setups to trade yourself as well. All right, so let's start with the trade we did on Reddit today. So Reddit was special because this is the same setup that I have been teaching for a long time, my A plus setup. And I will teach you that again. If you follow me closely, you remember. So Reddit you see that I highlighted it in red. Bullish bias to long, trade versus 100. The plan on the Reddit was pretty clearly defined how we want to trade it. That was the plan in the pre-market. The reason it's an A plus, I'm just going to show you the screenshot. It makes better sense here. Let's see if I can explain to you guys here in the screenshot here. Let's see if I go to Reddit. So you see that Reddit was a recent IPO. The earnings that came are growing. They became profitable. We are breaking hundreds. I'll show you a chart in a minute. And then we have all-time highs. Recent IPOs, high growth, 100 break, all-time highs. So this is the Reddit setup, right? So you see that how it's setting up here for the long. And So I'll show you the guidance how we did it, and it was similar to the trade that we did on Kava. We'll go there later. It's an A plus setup, right? Because of all these reasons, where a lot of shorts will think it's too high, but it's actually an A plus setup for long. So you see right at the open, I said long. A lot of traders had a problem. They were not filling on the options, couldn't find the options, but that's fine. We did get a pullback to long. My 110 was my first target, 115 was my next target, and then let's look at what happened later on that. So let's go here. Let's look here actually. Let's go look at the daily chart on Reddit. So if I'm looking at the daily chart here, it's right. 1 second. Let me just fix the chart here. So okay, so when I'm looking at this chart, you see this all-time highs, right? It's all-time highs. There's no resistance, and it's over 100 psychological level. So I was pretty confident about this trade. So you see that, and right at the open, I told everybody long. So okay, Reddit. Here you go, long 110 first target, and then 150 next target. We met that. Then there was a flag break. I called out this flag break. See, we are not running away. We are just flagging. So some traders will think it's gonna drop, right? It's not gonna drop. This is a flag, and that's what I said, flag. And then flag breaks out, we push higher. And then, even though clouds were breaking, you need to watch this support level 1, 2, right? Double bottom right here, initially support right here. So we know the buyers won't let it go under that. So you need to know this is the support which actually works, and that's what you need to use. And then it finally reclaimed 512s again, and then it's pushing higher, right? So 120 was our target. We didn't meet that final target, but if you see that, the 105 calls went from $6 to almost 12 and 13 bucks. They were 100%. These were a little less volume, but a lot of traders were trading 110s. I think they were moving better as well. But it's always all a good trade with the shares, right? Your risk is right here at 102s. And then that's you're making, like, what did you make? You're making over 10 12 bucks, risking 2 3 bucks. That's a great risk reward trade. A lot of traders did really good on Reddit. You can see the support I'm highlighting. I keep teaching in the community as well about this setup to the traders. So remember that. I tweeted about this as well. Kava was a similar A plus setup, and I think we had ARM as well a while back, a similar setup. I always remember my setups. These are not random setups, and these are the setups where you make a lot of profit. Worst case, it broke here, we would have stopped out. We would have lost $2 $3, maybe 4, who cares? But when they go, we make 10 15 $20 due to the range. A noob trader will think that this is too high, this is overvalued. That's not what we do, right? And yeah, now we're going to watch it for continuation, day 2 setups, any pullbacks. Really like this name long term as well. Beautiful trade in the community. Showed you the pre-market guidance and showed you the real-time guidance. All, of course, most of my guidance on the voice. Beautiful trade. Let's go to the next one. All right, let's recap the best trade of the day. That was Lily, right? So Lily was a beautiful trade. It was an amateur move short, and then we longed it. So I'm going to explain it to you how. I'm going to draw this Fibonacci here, and then I'll show you and explain it to you. So let's look at the plan, what we had on the Lily in the pre-market, right? So you see I highlighted Lily because Lily is always a good setup. So I said 512 call on watch, no long under it, right? 820 is a resistance, 800 is a support, and 795 is a support. So as soon as market opened, Lily started to flush down. You don't see much here, but if I go to the 1-minute chart, you will see that the flush was pretty strong for first 10 minutes. That's our amateur move. So from amateur move, then came the trend move. So if I go here, I show you my timestamped guidance on Lily. We were short on Lily, and I will watch the pops to short Lily versus 800. So we shorted Lily, and Lily started to move. My short target was 780. Then my next target was 775. And then we locked there, and then final target was 770. So let's see what happened at that initial push on the down, right? When we were shorting, a lot of traders were trading different options. But if you look at that 880 lottos, right, that went from 12 bucks to 22 bucks, wherever you got it. It was a 100% amateur move trade, right? So that's an amateur move trade. So once I started to see this coming up, higher lows, I knew it's going to reclaim. Lot of because we already reached our target, and then it was after the first 10-minute amateur move we started to push higher, and that's when I was telling traders that it's gonna. Some of the traders were already taking the B minus long, but I waited until I got more confirmation of the 800 psychological level and then the push over 512s. So you see that I'm telling the traders lock all the profits, and that was at 10 a.m. right? It was right here, right here. Lock all the runners on short side. Remember, that's where we were short. So we were out, right? Locking the profits. Then it confirmed the 512 longs. The stops were 789. And from that, it started to push, 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 push. 815, my first target met. And then, my next target was 820s. And I told on the voice that you can trade 820 calls. That went 200%. And then my final target was 860 area. Why was it 860 area? Because of this Fibonacci level from the top here to the bottom, right? And then this was our 512 call. You see the system, right? The system, EMA Cloud system, there's no other system like this. I can confidently say that. There's a reason thousands of traders in the world use my system to trade consistently because of this particular reason. You get a signal to long and you know your stops that I gave you guys here, and then it pushed to the first Fibonacci level from the highs of the pre-market to the lows of the day, and then almost close to our second Fibonacci of 61%, the 61% retracement, basically the range and the retracement. So that was a target, right? So then it starts to break 512. This is where I told everybody to cut, and of course you could short scalp there for that was what 838 to 16 17 bucks. That was not bad as well. And then it started to 512 curl. That's where you long it again for middle of the day, and you make some profits there as well. Beautiful, beautiful move on the daily chart. If you really look what it was doing, was just phenomenal, right? You don't get such moves too much, but only way you can make use of such moves is if you are if you're confident about your setups, right? I even gave this setup long this morning with 800 on Twitter as well, and you can see that what happened afterwards. Even for the Twitter followers, we hit over 860, and very proud of the community, the way they traded it, right? Because we're not an alert service, right? I'm a guide, and all the traders in my community are hitting the buttons themselves. They are finding their options, they are defining their risk, and they are taking the trade. And you can see so much how good the trade was. Such trades can make your days, weeks, months. That's what is about. That's what's about my education. That is what's about our community that I have been teaching for so many years, and nothing makes me more proud to see this. So hopefully you learned that. And there was another setup like this on you, similar setup on you, the gap fill, retrace. You see that? So that was long right here. We were initially short when we reclaimed out of the short and we fixed through the longs, and that ran from 28 bucks to 31 bucks right into the 61 Fibonacci level. So understand this setup. Hopefully next time we get a gap. We don't really get the gap down gap fills too much, but this was amazing trade on Lily. Let's go to the next one. All right, let's look at our next play that we had was a SHAK. Let's look at that. SHAK was initially a long for us, and let's look at the plan we had in the pre-market on SHAK. So SHAK, usually a good runner, bullish bias to long, cautious of 512. That was a plan. So when I saw SHAK holding this level right here, and then there's always good risk. You can long versus this, right? So that was when I said you long watch versus 512s, and you can see that then the curl happened, and there goes, I mentioned it at 10 bucks right when it was trading right here. You could risk like 2 bucks here, and it went on to 30 bucks, right? $6 move on 2 bucks risk as 1:3 reward. And once it broke this 512s, that's when I said cut it, and you can of course short it. My teachings, if this was a 512 short, you can easily make the money to the downside on the SHAK short as well. So that was a beautiful trade as well. All right, let's look at the AMD today. AMD was mostly waste of time all day. One thing, I saw somebody who shook out of the puts, but the problem here was that the system never turned bullish. So there's no reason to get shaken out of your puts. System never turned bullish. You only shake out if you buy the lows of the amateur move and you get out, and that's when you get shaken out. But I would say that there was not enough range, just a dollar range all day. Like you see this, this is not enough to make money unless you are just you can scalp it if you had a 151 entry. But anyways, that was my guidance short. That's what I said in the pre-market as well, that AMD lot of resistance above, no long under 153 151. So it never really went over 153, so there was no reason to long it, and you could short it once it was breaking this level right here, the candle. And then the problem was the 150 level. It's a big psychological level, huge psychological level. So we were targeting 140. The short was okay, but remember the swipe, then as long as it stays under, you can't stop out until we push higher. And then it just went, and then rejected again, came back again, went, failed, went, failed, went, failed. So there was basically nothing to do after that. We were short biased, the short was there, but the move was not enough for us to make something. So hopefully you understand that. We had a great win on AMD yesterday. You better watch that. Let's go to the next one. All right, let's look at a Google. So on the Google, the problem with the Google was that I even tweeted about it, that Google was nice gap, but market became heavy and it spoiled the long setup, right? So that's why I was careful, right? That's what I said, be careful, right? And it was pulling back, and then if it stays heavy versus 180, I said you can short it, but then it kept holding it this level, right? So you need to see how these levels kind of work to make sense of it. If I can show you guys what's going on. So so you can see this, right? So you can see this, you can see this, and you can see this, and you can see this, and you can see, then finally broke. So I did say that it could go up higher, but it will be a small range. You could long it. Yes, I said you can long it. I'm not interested in this small move. If you can make some money on this couple dollar move, that's fine. But see, again, it held this resistance, came back, same level, right? Same level from the pre-market, came back, pushed, came back, then finally broke, and this was a 512 short, right? So when it was pushing, that's what I gave the long idea to trade that. But then we had a gap alert on Google, and that was one. You see this alert came right here, so it faded nicely all day from the gap. So you could definitely, this was the move, this $5 move. This was the move that you could really make some good money there. So basically, Google was a kind of a short scalp, long scalp here, and was a nice midday short, right? This was a midday short setup on Google. Let's go to the next one. So next one we're gonna look at is Wing. So Wing was didn't really trade it. I just want to recap what was the plan. So Wing was on a bearish bias to short the pops, right? That was our plan. Wing bearish bias to short the pops, and you see, right, drop, pop into the resistance, short. So that was all day short. So follow the plan, follow the system, easy short. If it was not for so many good other plays, we would have shorted Wing as well. Beautiful trade. So next one we're gonna look at is Humana. So let's look at Humana. So let's see what was happening on Humana. Humana was also on our watch list this morning, and the plan on Humana was, let's see where it is. Trade bearish bias to short, but cautious of 512 curls, right? So it curled right away. Right away it curled, and it didn't really give any chance. But the key here is it was not a short, right? If you got along, that's fine. This is MTF break into next MTF, and I mentioned it at 934 as well. It was trading pretty low here, right here, and even after I mentioned it, pushed like $10 to 272s. That was a decent trade if you took the morning call. This is a repeatable morning 512 longs, so remember that. Let's go to the next one. So next one I'm gonna just discuss is Snap. So let's see what was happening in the Snap today. Snap was on our watch list here. Let's see. So Snap was earning today, had a bearish bias to short the pops. But again, in case of Snap, you see that it reclaimed the clouds. So there was not a short, because it reclaimed the clouds, and there was no rejection here, and even the second candle was bullish. So that was a long ride from this 3450s, and look at the level that I gave in the pre-market here. The level that I gave was 12, right? So once it reclaimed 12, it becomes a long and pushed decent there as well. Just to understand, because if you look at the daily chart, we are in the gap. So the daily chart on the snap is in the gap. This is a gap right here. So that's why you see that big candle that started here and pushed higher. So just going to discuss few day 2, day 3, the list I give every day. So this was a SOFI, there was our day 2, day 3 setup, and let's see. So SOFI was, our play right here. You see that in the day 2s, and it was again a day 2 repeatable setup over the clouds, over the MTF clouds, all day long. Again, we were busy so many trades today, but these were the opportunities that we have in the community. So let's look at some other day 2 setups. ON was a decent setup today in the community. You could see that ON pushed over that 72 level. That was a nice little long here before the before the big flush. You could even short that 512s, but you can see that it was pushing right from the MTFs, pushed over the clouds, pushed over yesterday highs into the 76. So let's look at another day 2, day 3 setup that kind of triggered a little later. That was VFC. So we had a VFC from yesterday earnings that was. So in VFC was a day 2 setup after the earnings. You can see that it pulled down and then it pushed over the clouds and continued to push over today's highs. So that's what I teach in the day 2 setups, that once it breaks out of that pre-market high, yesterday highs, is going to push higher. So there were a lot of opportunities to long here at 21s, and then you could long here higher on the flag break. Was a decent $2 move. I think RGV was pretty much guiding on it today in the community, or it was D trades. So that was a good one there as well. There were a bunch of other day 2 setups. TMDX was a day 2 short. You can see that right away from the day 2 system that I teach under the clouds. Right away you can buy the puts and make some money there. You see that there was a TMDX. Yeah, so here you go. I was looking at the wrong day 2, day 3 sheets. You can see SOFI is there, you can see VFC is there, TMDX is there, and you can see that how they were going, right? There was a DJT as well. So DJT today again was a short under this MTF clouds, right? So DJT, once it breaks MTF clouds, you can short it. So MTF was a nice as well here on the day 2 setup. So there were a few other setups. QRVO was another short, but it got too extended to the downside, so it was not easy to get a good entry there. You can see that bearish bias, but little extended. 79 was support, and once it gave up the 79, it was clearly a short. Once it gave up 79, it was clearly a short. And talking about QRVO, we can also look at Apple, because QRVO is a supplier of Apple. So QRVO is a supplier of Apple. So that's what we put in the game plan as well, that you see here, right? Supplier lowers guidance. And Apple also was a short because it broke the levels, broke the clouds, MTF cloud, and down to the other MTF cloud. So Apple was also a short there. If you see that, if you check the levels we gave in the pre-market on the Apple 232, 231.76, both those levels gave up, and it was a beautiful short there. So regarding SMCI, there was news bot alerted in the pre-market. I tweeted about it. So it was nice short in the pre-market. Our news bot is pretty fast. It tweets this before anyone it tweets it. We had it right at the open on SMCI. You can see this right away at we had it at where is it? Let's look here. Yeah, you're right here at 854, 853, we got those alerts. So a lot of traders shorted it right out of the gate. A nice short from 37 all the way to 32 bucks. Was a good trade. After that, there was some news, a pop, but it was all day short, right? You don't have to touch it. I mean, when there's a DOJ investigation, you know the risk. I don't even know why all the traders, even on Twitter, and they were trying to long it. There's a DOJ, there's an overnight risk. There's a DOJ investigation. Even the CEO was trying to pump it a few days ago. It's not good when a CEO is tweeting about the company, something like that. But anyways, it's still the same thing. You never know. Maybe they remove it from S&P. Maybe they, something else comes out. It's a very risky investment until DOJ clears it. No matter the fundamentals, no matter how good the work they are doing, no matter how good clients they have. Yes, it can linger around for a bit. Options, due to the options and too many shorts being crowded short, it can linger around, but there's no reason to buy the stock and go to bed at night because you can't sleep, right? But from there, SMCI was DELL was the winner from SMCI Beautiful chart. This is something you need to learn. Beautiful call outs today in the community by the traders on Dell. Very impressive. You can see that Mikshu was calling it out, Hansel Explorer, CMorph. Everybody was calling it out because this SMCI business where it loses, Dell gains, AI servers. So SMCI was a beautiful call in the community by the traders for the long side. Anyways, that's what it is for today. Hopefully you learned something good. I'll see you guys tomorrow.